My next guest is a great advocate for the idea that investing in Aboriginal business is not charity, but a moneymaker. Clint Davis, an Inuk from Labrador, has spent his career harnessing these opportunities. Welcome to this Raw Talk special. Clint, welcome to this Raw Talk special.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Let me start by asking you, what does economic reconciliation mean to you?
Economic reconciliation means the opportunity for Indigenous people in this country to be active participants in the economy, to be able to have the opportunity to compete in an equitable way so that they can build wealth for themselves and for their communities.
Do you see a specific role for the resource sector in this context?
Absolutely. We're a resource country, and so it plays a significant role to our economy. It plays a significant role around employment, as well as innovation and growth in this country. And so when you look at the resource sector, it is actually a major employer right now of our own people here in Canada. And I think they have a vital role to ensure that as new projects come on stream, as other projects fall offline, that they're ensuring that Indigenous businesses, communities, and people are active participants.
You've stressed that the media portray of Indigenous people seeking handouts, that is wrong, and that the relevant story is about how Indigenous communities contribute to the economy. Tell me that story.
You hear time and time again how Aboriginal people and communities are receiving up to $13 billion on an annual basis. And basically, this money is being provided to communities to ensure that they have governance structures in place to provide the necessary programs and services to their people. The reality is that more and more communities are looking at business as a way to build sustainability for their communities. And as a result, we're seeing significant contributions to the economy. TD Bank did a report a number of years ago looking at the size of the Aboriginal economy in terms of individual purchases, as well as businesses and governments, and the number is over $30 billion a year, which is actually larger than the GDP of 2 provinces in Canada combined. So that's a significant contribution, and it's a real contribution in real money. So we're not seeking out handouts whatsoever. We're major contributors to the economy right now.
And you have made a living out of that. You are seeking to harness these business opportunities. You're a partner and MD of Acasta Capital Indigenous.
Yes.
What is it that you do?
So we provide financial advisory services, merchant banking services to Indigenous communities. Probably about 10 years ago, that service wouldn't be necessary, but we're seeing more and more communities participating in large-scale transactions that need somebody in a firm that understands their goals and aspirations.
Before this, you were in Indigenous banking. What was that about?
Every single major bank in Canada actually has an Indigenous banking service. What it is, it's in the business banking area of the bank, so commercial loans, deposits, etc. What we were doing is providing loans, deposits to communities so that they can achieve their own particular goals around infrastructure development, capital development, etc.
What is special about Indigenous banking? Are there special interest rates, or what are?
Yeah, no, they would receive the type of facilities as well as the rates that anyone else would receive. The difference is that because communities, there's 2 things. First of all, they are public governments. They do receive ongoing funding. They'll never go bankrupt. So you have to assess the risk in a very different way. Secondly, you can't take security on reserves. So that's a prohibition which is outlined in legislation. So that's something that's very new as compared to other communities across the country.
You are an Inuk from Labrador.
I am.
The Inuit region is huge.
It's about 1/3 of Canada.
And about 50% of its coastline, I read.
50% of its coastline, absolutely.
The region is managed jointly by the Inuit and the government through what is called land claims agreement.
Yeah.
What does that mean in practice?
There are 4 major land claims for the Inuit across the country. We started the first land claim in 1973 in northern Quebec. In fact, the last land claim was settled in 2005, which is my own community. And so for my own community, we settled with a comprehensive land claim agreement plus a self-government agreement. So what that provides is it provides land. And so we actually have ownership for specific parcels of land within our territory, money, so that there has to be financial compensation for the loss of culture, land, historical activity, and so on. And in our case, for our community, we actually have self-government agreements. So we actively created a third order of government in the province of Newfoundland and Labrador. With co-management, it means that other levels of government in Canada, both provinces and the federal government, along with Inuit governments, actively manage the interests of the land collaboratively.
If you put this self-government and this land claims agreement in context of economic reconciliation, what does it mean for that?
It means the local people actually have the true authority and power to be able to make decisions and to enable and facilitate economic activity within their territory based upon their own goals and aspirations.
Do you see that self-government is the only way to economic reconciliation?
Not necessarily. I see it's an incredibly profound question. I believe that there's remarkable foundation for success and economic prosperity through self-government. Ultimately, what you're saying is that you're having local communities having the power and authority to make decisions which will impact them directly. Having said that, you do have other communities that don't have the extent of that authority, but still doing exceptionally well. I would argue that self-government is certainly an ultimate goal, but whether or not it is a true measure of success, I think it's still undetermined.
The region faces economic challenges, infrastructure challenges, pockets of poverty, etc. But there are also significant opportunities, not least in the resource sector.
Right.
What role in particular can the resource sector play in developing the region?
I think there are some basic amenities that we have in southern Canada that we take for granted. Anywhere from affordable food to quality education to medical services to basic internet connectivity. There are very subpar roads and intermittent energy that exists in our communities. So it is really, unfortunately, an area that has been ignored in terms of investment on the part of the federal government.
It sounds almost like it's a different country.
Yeah, in many respects it is. It's on the positive side, we have very active, very sophisticated systems of Indigenous self-governance. We have people who are strong, resilient people with a remarkable amount of pride in what they've done to contribute to the North. But at the same time, you do see this separation certainly from individuals in the North and how potentially they're perceived by individuals in the South. You look at the amount of people that have been to the Canada's far north, it's about 5 to 10%, of which a portion of that, a significant portion, are people going to the North to work. Our northern region of the country is a fundamental part of our identity, and frankly, our country isn't built yet. We need to be able to invest critical infrastructure, and that infrastructure includes social infrastructure such as education, connectivity, roads, ports, transportation, and frankly, renewable energy. Every single one of our Inuit communities in this country are on diesel. There is no one actively participating in any renewable energy whatsoever, and virtually every single one of our communities have subpar connectivity. So you look at that and see whether or not that's sustainable. It clearly isn't. Resource companies will tell you time and time again that when they're actively participating in the growth of the economies in the North and they're looking to levels of government for contribution around infrastructure, they're ignored.
You chair the board of the Nunatsiavut group of companies.
Yes.
Did I pronounce that okay?
You did a perfect job.
Can you explain the work of the company?
We're a development corporation, so effectively we're a holding company overseeing a variety of different operating companies. We are the economic arm of Nunatsiavut government, which is the political entity that passes laws and provides programs and services to our people. So we try to generate revenue and employ our people to give them a better life.
You are involved in something called the Pan-Arctic Council, is that right?
That's right.
What is this Pan-Arctic region? Is that an economic business opportunity?
So across the globe, there are Inuit in 4 major regions. So you find Inuit in Alaska, Canada, Russia, Chakotay region, as well as Greenland. There is what's called a political entity called the Inuit Circumpolar Council. So they provide the voice of Inuit on a variety of different issues, in particular trade, as well as the environment and so on. Virtually every single one of the Inuit groups have a development corporation, have a business arm. And because of an interest in the North, because of changes in the global climate, and more attention on the North, we saw that there was a requirement for development companies to come together to have a dialogue to see whether or not there was opportunities for us to collaborate.
Are there any lessons you would like to bring into Canada from other communities?
Yes, there are examples happening in other countries that I think certainly would apply to Canada. Some of the largest development corporations in the world exist in Alaska. In fact, when you look at the top 10 sized companies, 3 of them of the top 10 are Native Alaskan development corporations. I think they've been able to demonstrate over a longer period of time that they have the ability and the authority to exercise influence over business and politics, and they do it in a way which has a common voice, and I think we could probably take that back to Canada and do it more effectively.
I want to end this with a future issue, climate change.
Right.
What impact do you see that will have for the Inuit communities?
Well, I think it's going to be a profound impact. I think you're probably going to see this evolution, unfortunately, of our culture to the extent that some traditional activities will definitely be impacted. Having said that, there are also going to be, so there'll be a new way of living, a new way of experiencing our lives on the land. But there's also going to be brand new economic opportunities. So with, unfortunately, the melting of the Northwest Passage, that in theory could create a new transportation route. It's very difficult to comprehend the significant impact on the environment around that. But if we're seeing new shipping routes going through Canada in that regard, then the people who are living there are us. And we have to be able to have a seat at the table to ensure that the impact on the environment and on our rights and traditional activity are mitigated, as well as any economic activity that comes out of it that we benefit from it.
Clint, thank you very much for joining this Raw Talk special.
It's been a pleasure. Nakumek.